Welcome back up on the mountain today. We're going to be in the wood turning shop. I have a little project we need to get knocked out. I haven't been in here for a while, so we need to do some inspections. Looks like over in this corner we have a mouse making a house. He pretty much ate up my rag and all the paper towels. That's to be expected. Looks like he made a mess over on this side also. Might have even been trying to make a house here behind the grinder. That's okay, we're gonna pick all this stuff up and just throw it in the wood stove. I know it's summertime, we don't need a fire in here, but we want to burn up all these mouse things. Anyway, back to the project of the day. I have this, it's a .454 lead ball used in my cap and ball revolver. And we're gonna use some of this maple wood here to make a paper cartridge mandrel and die set. That should be fun. Now I already prematurely drilled a hole in here. I don't know if it's quite the right size yet, but the ball sinks down just a little bit, so I think that'll have to be made a little bit bigger. But the reason we're at the wood shop is because I need to make a mandrel that goes down in this hole, and we're going to make that out of this piece of maple here. So let's get started. So we have it mounted up. I just have it friction fit on this side over here, and this center pin is kind of in the center. Let's make that tenon. All right, it's not pretty, but it's good enough. Now we'll take this out, flip it around, start making our mandrel. So you can see how that tenon that we just made fits in the chuck much nicer. And we'll just tighten this thing down, make it fairly tight. And this end, we just have it still on center. Perfect. So we have to cut this way down. Pretty much we have to make a skinny piece of wood that's going to stick in this hole. And this hole is slightly tapered, so it's a 1/2 inch on one side and .4 on the other side. Yeah, it's pretty exact. First thing we need to do is just make this thing mostly round. All right, that's pretty round. We have still a little flat spot here. Maybe we'll go ahead and make it a little bit smaller. I think it'll look more nicer if everything is round. And we'll probably go ahead and remake this square block that I cut. Obviously the hole in the middle needs to be a little bit bigger, so we'll remake that also. All right, we just about have the flatness taken off of this. I think I'm going to try to sand this a little bit with some 80 grit sandpaper, just to make it smooth. All right, that should be good enough. Let's go ahead and cut the block off the end. Now the temporary square block I made is just under 1 inch thick. So we're going to go ahead and mark this round piece right at that thickness. The way we cut this block of wood off is I have this long handled chisel, and you can see it's just a nice square carbide tip on there. All we do is slowly push it in. I know, that's what she said. And we'll just continue pushing this in until it's very thin in the middle. But before we break it off, I'm going to want to separate this end and cut that little nubbin off there. Now you can see we have the middle pretty thin. We're going to concentrate over here and just cut this little end piece off. I'm trying to do this one-handed so I can film it. Not the easiest thing to do one-handed. You get the idea. We're going to knock that little thing off the end. And now that we have that end knocked off, we're going to go ahead and run this center spike in. That's going to help us later when we start to drill the hole to make sure it's perfectly centered in the block. Let's get rid of that block. Get rid of the block. All I'm going to do is continue cutting there. I can't film it, so I'll show you when it's done. All right, I have that center about as thin as we can make it. So now we just grab onto it and snap it off. Now we can start making the mandrel out of this part. Now for the mandrel, we're going to put a block of wood at the top also, probably that same 1 inch thickness. And we're going to have a 1 inch long skinny piece. This end needs to be at a 0.4 inches, and 1 inch back it needs to be at a 0.5. We'll just rough it out and check it with our calipers occasionally till we get close. All right, we have the outside end at 0.44 or so. We're going to leave it just a little bit big, and we can come back and scrape it smaller later. We're going to go ahead and turn this inside piece down to 0.5. Then we'll just remove all the material in between. Sounds like a plan. Now, anytime these bits aren't cutting as like they should, I'm gonna run it over here to the grinder. I have my tool rest at about the right angle. And we're just gonna go ahead and hit this thing. Edge on our tool. So I'm just slowly taking this down, a little bit at a time, kind of like building a cake. We have the tip of the mandrel down to 0.38 and the base of the mandrel is a 0.47. So that's pretty good. The ball that we're working with is a 0.46 loose fit. That should be perfect. Now we need to clean up this area a little bit, make it round, sand it a little bit, and cut it off. So we're carving just a little bit of a finger well into this, just to give it a little bit of shape. And we can run our parting tool in and cut this thing off. We're almost done. All right, we should be able to snap this off of here. Perfect. All right, to drill that tapered hole, we're going to take this 5/8 spade bit, put it here on the grinder, and taper it down to fit exactly that hole that we need. That should just about do it. Let's drill a hole. Now we can use that little pilot hole that we started. All right, so we have our taper hole cut in there. We have our ball that should fit in almost even to the top of the ball. And that's about right. That'll leave room for the paper to go around the outside. All right, now our mandrel, it fits in there nice and clean. It sits a little bit high, but that's okay. It's better to be too tight than too loose. All right, we moved inside for the next process. We're gonna actually try to make some of these cartridges. We have a high-tech coffee filter here. We're gonna go ahead and cut the strip out. I'm gonna make it the same height as the block. I don't know if that's right, but that's where we're gonna start. All right, so we have our precisely cut piece of coffee filter. It's not very precise. Now we can wrap our coffee filter around the mandrel, overlap it a little bit, cut this thing into squares. We also need to cut out some really precise circles. Those look way too big. All right, we're going to use those circles to close the bottom of the paper cartridge. That's going to be up close to where the primer cap is, away from where the ball is. Now I'm pretty sure I failed my kindergarten arts and crafts. Those look nothing like circles, but they're close enough. All right, I think our next step is to take our stick glue and we'll put some glue right along this edge of the paper and then wrap this thing super tight around that. Now I have no idea if you guys are going to be able to see any of this, but we're gonna try. We're gonna try just to put it on here and see if we can get it all over our fingers. That's awesome. We're only gonna wet like the last, half an inch or so. We wrap this thing around, try to get it as tight as possible. It looks pretty good. And now we're going to take one of our precisely cut circles and put it right there on the top. Put a little bit of glue on this end and push it all together. Wish me luck. All right, we have entirely too much glue on here. Let's see if we can get it lined up and push it on down in there. All right, we were able to pull it back out. It looks like the end is pretty well capped. We kind of crushed it a little bit. We're going to go ahead and finish this one, see if it works. Now, everything online that I've read says you need to let this thing completely dry. And if we look at our glue, it doesn't really give us a drying time. So we'll just sit here and look at it for a few minutes before we move on. We're going to push this thing back into the mandrel. Actually, we can push it in with the mandrel. It's probably easier. And we're going to put a shot of powder in here. We're just going to use our powder horn. Hopefully all of that fits in there. Looks like it went in there fine. You can see the powder down in the hole if this thing would focus. Next up, we put some glue on this little ball and drop it in the top. What could go wrong with that? Put as much gooey gluey on here we can get. Oh, I don't know if we need that much. Come on, DP. Drop the ball in the hole. And we'll use this mandrel to push it down just a little bit. You should be able to hear the powder crunching underneath it. Looks pretty good. And with any luck, that is one completed cartridge. So there's our cartridge sitting there. We're going to let the glue dry around this ball. And then we're going to try to press it into the revolver and see how that works. All right, let's see how this works. So we're going to take our revolver and put it in a half cock position. Right there, that allows the cylinders spin freely. Let's make sure we're in frame here. We're going to take our brand new cartridge and see if it fits in the cylinder. Uh-oh, it's a little tight. That means we need more taper. That's actually a good thing. Now the good news is this one was tight to fit in there, but it did go in just fine. As we said before, a little bit tighter is better. Now after we push that cartridge down in there, there's a little bit of paper and a little bit of lead right here on the top. We're going to get that out of there, I think. Let's see if I can get that out of the way. So you see the paper and the little shearing of lead came off the top when we pressed it down in there. But that chamber is loaded. So let's go cap it and shoot this thing. So we're out here at the old gold mine. It's got quite a sizable mountain behind it. We're just going to try to shoot this thing right here. All right, it is loaded. We have our eye protection and ear protection on. We're going to rotate it into position. And it fires. So that was my first attempt at making black powder paper cartridges for my 1851 Navy Colt revolver. Worked good. You guys get outside, do something fun. Come back and tell me about it.